Final Fantasy 15 has a pretty cool secret that I feel like most people in 2026 probably don't know about. Now, this only applies to the console versions of the game, and specifically while the game is installing. By either installing the game off the disc or downloading it digitally, you'll have to wait until 5 gigabytes of the game's data has installed before you're able to boot it. Now, this is only a very small portion of the game, but you are able to boot into the main menu. Now, you can't start a new game, but there is an additional option here, which is known as Open Combat. Weirdly enough, this mode can only be accessed via the main menu while the game is installing. You can actually see the option being removed in real time once the game has finished its install. Open Combat acts as a small mini tutorial, I guess. It doesn't necessarily teach you how the combat system works, but you can at least play around with Noctis and get used to his kit before jumping into the main game. I suppose Square Enix thought that because of the file size of Final Fantasy 15 being so large, the players will probably want to do something while they're waiting for the install. The thing is though, this will go unnoticed because I know a lot of people don't actually boot into their game until it's installed and all updates have been applied. There really isn't much happening in this mode though. It's essentially just waves of goblins being thrown at you, and you get to kind of just run around and fight and familiarize yourself with how the combat system works. The coolest and probably also the strangest thing about this though is you get to play outside of the Insomnia City Citadel area during the daytime while the city is still intact. As we know, this location is incredibly famous, if not the most famous location for both Versus 13 and Final Fantasy 15. It was seen in many different Versus 13 trailers, along with the Final Fantasy 15 title reveal change in 2013 at E3 for the 15 gameplay trailer. Almost the entire runtime of this 2013 gameplay trailer is taking place in this exact location, and the lack of Insomnia City in the final version of the game is one of the main reasons why a lot of people were so disappointed, as it was constantly used within a lot of the prior trailers. Insomnia City was supposed to be a major playable space, and it wouldn't be until the Royal Edition DLC and episode Arden where we got to explore just a little bit more of it. Still though, with the current version of the game, there is never a point where you visit Insomnia City before it's destroyed and during the day, outside of this one specific small little tutorial segment that's mysteriously hidden behind an install wall. Furthermore, it can only be done on console as well. You can't access Final Fantasy 15 while it's installing for PC, so even stranger still. And it appears that this has actually been taken from the Platinum demo, a demo of 15 that dropped a few months before the main game. At the end of the Platinum demo, you're transported to the Citadel, and here you mysteriously transform from young Noctis into older Noctis. This kind of acts as like the final fight of the demo. Here you have to defeat an Iron Giant. As I said, for Open Combat, you're fighting waves of goblins rather than an Iron Giant, but Carbuncle is still here. This tells us that similar to the Platinum demo, this Open Combat sequence is also a dream sequence. I did notice that the Platinum demo's version of this area actually has more warp points, the warp points that allow you to kind of scale the Citadel itself. These were the same warp points that we actually see used in that 2013 gameplay trailer. For whatever reason, they have been removed from the Open Combat version of this space, and it's only the poles on the side of the road that can be warp pointed to. It's super bizarre that this can only be accessed while the game is installing. I know for hardcore Final Fantasy 15 fans or Versus 13, this is a location that means a lot to them. Incredibly nostalgic and very iconic. It would have been nice to still have this mode accessible even after the game has finished installing, by keeping the option there available on the title screen. Furthermore though, it's just incredibly disappointing that this entire sequence that's taking place outside of the Citadel, with what looks to be the Niflheim Empire sort of invading, and we've got to fight off those invading forces, never made it into the final version. And that exploring Insomnia City properly was subjected to a DLC episode. The only means of being able to explore the streets during the daytime as Noctis is via the PC version using mods. However, I wanted to talk about this just to sort of bring it back into relevance. I'm sure that there are a ton of people that didn't even know this existed or purely just forgot, much like myself. It wasn't until I came across a Japanese post talking about about the open combat mode that sort of unlocked a memory deep within the abyss of my brain. I vividly remember sitting there on launch day, tinkering around with the open combat, while the main game was installing. And sure, while it's not as epic as everything that's going on in the 2013 trailer, it's still cool to know that this is in the game, accessed by very bizarre means. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Be sure to slippity slap that like button and subscribe to keep up with everything going on here. A massive shout out to my wonderful patrons and YouTube members. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and we'll chat again real soon.